site coordinator, and I work very closely with Wendy Gonzalez, Sylvia Bland on what's called our SAP committee, Student Assistance Program. And that predated me with Barbara McCoo. It's been part of CIS for as long as I think CIS has been around. It's a group of it's administration, counseling, our ASE is on the team, our school social worker. We used to have when we used to have a school social worker, she was on the team. Our school psychologist is there, and also anybody else that we feel has pertinent information regarding students. We meet weekly. We use lots of different sources for data. Mainly it's teacher referral or our referral, because sometimes we're the ones dealing with the students, and that's how we get individual students, is from feedback from the teachers. There's a certain form. It's also the discipline form, but they can check either discipline if they're writing a discipline referral or a staff team referral. We also look at the data every week, so that just basically the format of our meetings, we have an agenda which lists, it looks a lot like the bird agenda. It lists all of the students, what the current issue is, whether it's academic, whether it's attendance, whether it's behavior, what are the next steps that we need to do, and then we assign a caseworker that sits on the SAP team. And then by the next week, we've got it up on Google Docs so people can have access to it and update it as the week goes on, so that when we come back the next week, there it is again as to what's happened during the week, and then we move on. We either change that to a monitor student, or we need next steps, or we can take them off the list. So it's always changing, just like prior teams were saying. At the end of going through those specific students, then every week we pull the discipline data and we pull the attendance data, and we go through that and see who is starting to slip that's not on our list. And that's how we identify kids that have not been targeted specifically by teachers or by us. We also look at grade reports, and those go really fast for us because we are a 4x4. Is it coming? Okay. So just to talk about a couple of interventions. Mega Mentors, I know they're at a couple other schools as well. They just started with us. We'll have our first meeting in February, but that's more of a group mentoring program. We also have one-on-one mentoring programs. So another way we look at data is to use our knowledge of the student. We look at the discipline data, and just to, for instance, if the motivation for the student for this behavior is to gain negative peer attention, we know that's probably not a good student for our Mega Mentors. That's in a group setting. They might be disruptive. They might not get what we want them to get out of the intervention. That might be a student that will get more out of the one-on-one mentoring. So we're constantly using data, and that's just one way that we do it. One intervention we've really been hitting hard is the home visits, and Wendy Gonzalez and I have that down to a science, particularly with the Spanish-speaking families. If you're in an area that has a lot of Spanish-speaking families, I hope you have somebody who's fluent, because there are many families we would never have been able to even make contact with had it not been for Wendy. So usually in those situations when the parents don't speak English, Wendy goes in, and I swear it's like she's at some sort of auction, and they're talking, and I'm entertaining the little people usually. But by the end of it, the fact that she's able to communicate with those families creates these relationships that then the parents are always calling us back. Those home visits have done more for creating relationships with the families probably than anything else. But I will tell you a couple of, I'm skipping ahead. And we look at, when we go to the home visits, we do a lot of goal setting if the student is there. If not, we're working with the parents to see what's going on at home. We look back after we've implemented those interventions. We look at the discipline, we look at the attendance, we look at the grades to see if what we're doing has worked. If it hasn't, we go back to the beginning and see what else we've got in our toolkit. We also get feedback from the teachers and look for specific outcomes, as I've mentioned.
And I'll just add right there, after we do our SAT team meetings on every Wednesday, Jennifer and I will identify which kids we need to go home visit. So we immediately make a list. We don't wait. So I'd say about every 2 weeks, she and I hit the road and after a little Mexican after school, and then we go, get ready. And then we go out and hit all the houses to about 9:15. Then we go on the weekends as well. And then there's some days, based on where the child lives in the county, because we pull from all over, we'll map it out and say, okay, we're gonna hit all these kids on this side of the county, these kids on this side of the county. It's very hard to lead during the day, so that's why we do a lot of night visits. But on the days we do, I mean, when we've noticed a kid has been out, and we're just like, Dad, now we're going to get him right now. So she and I hop in the car and we go get the kids out of their beds. Or we meet them on their sofas, and the parents are very supportive, but we literally bring kids back, we drive to McDonald's and feed them and get them right back in the building that day. So, I mean, if you're allowed that opportunity, that's worked real well for us too. And the kids have stayed, the ones that we've done that with.
And I just want to point out, Jennifer, while you're at that point, most of the people who are sharing out today are giving you interventions that are in these first three columns. Just doing the goal setting, just setting up with some coaching and feedback, sometimes some skill building, sometimes some individualized features, but community, because of the nature of the students coming in the door. Students coming in the door almost always have been resistant to previous interventions. They're at the level of needing a tier 3 intervention. So you are hearing some really good examples of the rest of this chart. What happens to this end of the continuum when they bump up to those tier 3 interventions? These folks are masters at it. And what you hear with all of this too is it's the relationship. It's not just the intervention, it is the relationship with the intervention that is making the impact.
Absolutely.
You hear the dedication for these folks, and the kids can read it.
Well, and I will say too, the word gets out that we come to the houses and pull them out of their beds. And so when I see some of the kids in the hallway say, oh, it's a good thing you're here today, because you were on my list to go to your house. Oh, no, Miss G, I heard about that. I'm here. And so that helps a lot when the word gets out. But also just in reestablishing, they really feel like that you care when you do that home visit, and just give them just a little bit.
Yeah, and the parents really appreciate it, because most of the times, you probably found this, they're pulling their hair out, and they're not third graders that you can pull out of bed anymore.
Right.
They're 6'3", and they're bigger, twice as big as the parents. And I think it's been beneficial for us to get into these houses or trailers or what have you, and it just, they're neat as a pin. Almost to each family, you could eat off the floor. There's hardly anything there, but these are people that are working hard. They're trying the best, and to remember that rather than having an adversarial relationship with them, it just further promotes the feeling that we're on all this together. They're not, sitting on the couch eating bonbons. They're working 2 jobs, and they're leaving before the kid gets on the bus, and the kid's not getting on the bus. So it's been very beneficial for our school.
I was relating to our teacher yesterday about how happy I was with her aide, who helped to interpret for me with the student that I was hearing an appeal from, and what a great job she did. But then Joyce told me, she said, in the homes, the student is actually the head of the household from the English standpoint. From the English, and I never really put all that together, at home, that they are the ones that really control, because they understand, and they can tell the parent most anything they want to tell them, okay, because the parent doesn't understand the English that well. And so they're kind of in control at home. So when they come to school, they have to reverse that role, and it's hard for the kids to reverse that role when they get to school.
I will say on one other thing with the visits, Jennifer and I mean, we pull no punches. We had heard that one of our kids was missing a lot of school due to her work schedule, so we knew where she worked. We went to the work, and we talked to the store manager and said, our child needs to be in school, you're not working her past such and such time, and we did that. So when that word got out with the kids, now all I have to do is just kind of throw that out there as a threat, like, do I need to go talk to your boss? No, we got this. So you just do it once or twice and the word gets out. So we visit.
And I will tell you, Ms. Gonzalez, she used the word threat, but she doesn't. She does it in the right way. Let me tell you very quickly about a couple students. Student A, last year, he had missed 15 consecutive days. He had missed 72 days from school. But he just got by us for 15 days, and boom, he was off our rolls. I mean, it happens like that. So, loaded up in the van, we went over there. Dad spoke only Spanish, and he basically greeted us with, I've tried everything. He's right in there. And there was our student, no shirt on, laying on the couch, and that's where he slept. And he said, go for it. So we went in there, woke him up. I remember him sitting up and rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. And he felt like there was no way for him to come back. So Ms. Gonzalez ended up making the plan. We worked with him. He came back, and he's finished up as of the next week. He's done. And that was a kid who definitely was walking away from school. Done.
What was the plan you put together?
You could probably speak to that better.
We came up with a creative scheduling and classes on when you could come in and let them out early in the day, and then I had to give them hope on, look, you're this close, because a lot of times unless they see it mapped out, this is all that you're lacking. Look, I'll even create, you can be a student aid in a builder's trades class, so we can give you elective credit. You just have to give them that hope, and we do a lot of creative scheduling with our kids, because a lot of our kids, for whom we're having to wake up out of bed, they don't want to get on the bus at 5:30, and for our kids coming from your ends of the county, our buses start at 5:30 in the morning. You know, for the very kids who hate high school, let's put them on the bus at 5:30. So when we find this out, you know, best laid plans. So anyway, so when we find this out, that's when we come up with these alternative plans. We even tried a couple of our kids, we were trying to get on the later GED bus, you know, okay, come in, you know, 10 o'clock, or do this or do that. So that's, you have to really think outside the box to make it work.
And the next one will really tell you the magic that she can work. But I will tell you that this student has missed 7 days versus 72.
Yes.
And I know that's not a percentage, but I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
All right, student B, and these are completely different students. This one is probably one of the smartest students we have.
Yes.
And he came to our school already with high anxiety and emotional issues. He's got medical issues. The emotional issues really aren't getting addressed by the family, so we're having to work with that. And parents have basically said, we're just not fighting this battle anymore. He's 16 years old, which we all know, not real legal, but we don't have the parents' input like we usually do, although they're wonderful people. We made 3 home visits. Mrs. Gonzalez referenced weekend visits. That's her. That's I mean, she went on a Sunday knowing that the parents would be home. We've made previous home visits, we've made subsequent home visits, but that was the visit that really changed it all. The fact that she was willing to come on a Sunday impressed the parents, and I think re-engaged them again. And that's the one, he salvaged 3 out of 4 credits and will finish the 4th one online this month. And mainly through E2020, because he is so bright and he is so motivated and he likes to work at home. He'll earn 1 additional credit by the end of the month, so he'll be pretty much caught up. Is there anything you wanted to add? Because that was really
well, and we had to be creative with him too, because of his anxieties and he's a night owl, and because when I go to these home visits, I sit and I go, what's the problem? Tell me. Is it a teacher? Is it the schedule? Is it the bus? Is it lunch food? You know, just whatever, throw it out there. And so he told me he's a night owl. He does have anxieties. He doesn't like the morning shift. So I'm like, okay, this is what we'll do. And Mom and Dad had committed to get him there because he doesn't have his driver's license yet. Most of our kids don't. And so we said, okay, I'll make sure that this particular class is scheduled at this particular time. You can come in at 10:30. You need to take driver's ed. You can take it at night school, or you can have it 4th period. And so he decided 4th period. And then he's going to do his other 2 classes, E2020, at home. But I told him, I said, if I don't see progress, because we monitor their progress, if I don't see you progressing at home, then I'm going to force you to come to the building to work in the lab. But if you can show me you can do it at home, I'll only make you come in for 2 of your classes, you do the other 2 at home. And as soon as you get those classes done, I'll sign you up for the next class. We won't even hold you back. Let's get ahead of the game. So now we've got to re-engage.
And I want to thank you both. Let's give them a round of applause.